Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back for another Golden Nugget with your girl Sam. Listen, today we are going to talk about how there is power in allowing people to misunderstand you. I know it sounds like an oxymoron. What do you mean? Okay, one of the things that I have figured out along my healing journey is that I'm okay with being the villain in someone else's story if that means that I'm the hero in my own story. So, as children, young girls, especially if you were raised by an abusive parent or a manipulative parent, um, I kind of shy away from using narcissistic because it's become such a trending word. But truly, some parents are narcissistic or have narcissistic tendencies. We learned at a very young age that adults' emotions were our responsibilities. They would come home from a long day of work, they were tapped out, and every little movement or sound would trigger them into emotional dysregulation. And that's just not fair. I mean, honestly, as children, we are supposed to learn emotional regulation from our parents, right? And so, if during your formative years you learned that everything that you do could potentially trigger an emotionally charged response from an adult, you learn how to walk around on eggshells and how to not get those responses from adults. In relationships, listen, I have definitely been in relationships where I was gaslit into feeling like I was the problem. Me voicing my opinion was wrong. Me standing up for myself. Me figuring out my likes and my dislikes and learning to have a voice, that our partner's happiness was at stake if we did any of those things. And so their happiness became a burden on our shoulders. And listen, don't get me started about the workforce because we're told as women to be nice, to be liked, to be kind, don't rock the boat. And if we do, we're just acting out of emotions. Um, we're hard to work with, aka we're a bitch. Whereas our male counterparts, they're given respect if they are business minded or they are calloused or cold or they're all about business, right? They're respected and they don't fall into that emotional manipulation per se. And so, as I've grown into the big, ripe old age of 37, I figured out that I'm okay, I'm at peace with not making someone else happy at the expense of my own happiness or my own peace. And so, what does that look like? Well, I think for one, as children, we don't really have a voice or a backbone or a say, which is why in raising my own children, we have a blended family. Noah is 16, Richie is 14 this week, and Titus is 10 and a half. And also having a child, Titus, who is autistic, who's on the spectrum, we really figured out good communication. And it's imperative for our family um, to, it's imperative for the health and happiness of our family to make sure that we are giving everyone, not just adults, space to talk about their emotions, talk about their opinions, talk about what they think is right or wrong. And so, very rarely do we just tell our children flat out no. It's no, and here's why. Um, and what we've kind of figured out in that is, with co parenting, that's what the children expect, the other homes, or, they look at their friends and they're like, well, that's not how, my mom or my dad or, so and so does with me. And, and so we are figuring out the difference in disrespectful children and children who are inquisitive and learning. And listen, I don't care. I do not care what other people think, what their opinion is on my parenting style, because I'm not raising children. I'm raising the next generation of what should be emotionally stable, smart, intellectual adults. And If you don't like my relationship with my child, kick rocks. I don't really care, because at the end of the day, my kids are going to have to learn and figure out how to function in this world one day when I am gone, and not lean back on legalism or, well, that's just the way it was always done, because they are inheriting a world that I could not fathom how to function in the world that they're going to get. Um, and then in relationships, listen, absolutely, you should not do things intentionally that triggers your partner, or um, hurts your partner, or is unfair to your partner. Like, listen, my husband and I live together, raise children together, run a home together, run businesses together. Like, we are partners in every aspect of the word. And so we have a lot of really intense conversations on a regular basis. And we have to give each other a lot of respect and a lot of space to process thoughts or emotions or um, reactions. You know, a lot of these things just come naturally, like anger. It's a fun emotion to feel. We were given anger as a protective emotion, right? Anger protects you from something that is you deem is trying to hurt you, or whatever the case is. And so, one is you have to give your partner space to feel those emotions and um, process those emotions. And then also understand, like, it's not my responsibility to keep you from having those emotions. It's not my responsibility to prevent you from having those emotions. Everyone is going to feel the full, or should feel the full gambit, the full range of emotions, right? Um, and so it's not my problem if something that I say in truth, without malice, triggers my husband into anger. Like, you're mad. I recognize you're mad. I'm going to allow you to be mad. It's not my responsibility to stop you from being angry or keep you from being angry. When you're done being angry, come let me know and we'll continue this conversation. But I can't be mad at him for being mad either. Have you ever noticed that, ladies? Is that we'll do or say something that triggers our partner into anger, and then when they get angry, then it triggers us into anger. And so we're in a spiral of anger between the two partners. That is your responsibility, not to be triggered into anger at that aspect. Now, not saying that what they do can't trigger you into anger or sadness or whatever it is. It's their responsibility how they act when they're inside of those emotions as well. But I'm not going to be gaslit or made to think that another grown adult's emotions are my responsibility to regulate for them. Okay, you're mad. I recognize you're mad. I'm going to give you space to process that anger. We'll talk later. And then in the workforce, listen, guys, there's absolutely nothing that you can do or say that is going to change the mind of another adult. All you can do is stand on business, do your job to the best of your ability. Do not over explain yourself. When you over explain yourself, you're giving little pieces of your strength and independence away. It is okay to stop people in their tracks and say things like, hey, that's inappropriate for work. Don't speak to me in that manner. Let's reframe this conversation. Listen, I love a good email chain. I love having receipts on receipts on receipts. Text and emails, that's my main form of communication when it comes to business. Because we're not going to say, well, I don't think that's exactly how it was said. That's exactly how it was said in black and white. It's okay to hold people accountable. It's okay to call people on the carpet. It's okay to say, I'm not comfortable with this line of communication. Let's move over to email. Let's move over to Slack. Let's move over to X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. Let's wrap our superior into this. I'm going to CC John on this one. It's okay to stand your ground. And if it pisses somebody else off, oh well. I'm okay with being the villain in your story because at the end of the day, I'm the hero in my own story. And that is what matters is at the end of the day that you're able to lay your head down at night, be at peace, be proud of yourself, be able to hold yourself accountable on both sides of the coin for good and for bad. Assess the situation and do better the next day because somebody else's emotional state and opinion of you is never going to pay your bills, sister. It is never going to help you advance in life. What is absolutely going to help you mentally, physically, emotionally, financially is to be your biggest cheerleader, to be your biggest hero. And listen, girl, it's 2025. You've got all the permission in the world. All right, guys, until next time, thank you so much for logging in today and hanging out with me. I hope that this helped you guys, even if all you needed was a reminder. Sometimes we need a reminder, okay? Make sure that you are liking and subscribing, commenting, leaving your reviews on whatever platform that you're listening to the podcast on, and make sure that you're sending us your DMs. Listen, we have an incredible run coming up for the end of the season, and we can't wait to hear from you for the AFAFs and your suggestions for podcast guests. But yeah, guys, I just absolutely love hearing from y'all. But until next time, see you later.